To me, I think he's in a spot, and I guess this can lean more into his career. I think he's in a spot where his music isn't actually as good, but the influence and aura is on 10.
Yes, it is.
And good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how the album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video, leave us a comment, let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather, and we are here with His Royal Highness, aka The Bunny, aka No Longer a Munch, King Grants.
AKA the narcissist. Shout out to Playboi Carti. Remember Playboi Carti's initial, Narcissist was supposed to be the previous album.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was like Baby or something like that.
You're taking it back right now.
So shout out the narcissist as well. I wore all black purposefully for this event. But yeah, we're here reviewing Playboi Carti's music. 2025 brackets. Playboi Carti, Atlanta rapper. I would say somebody that is an innovative artist in hip hop. Somebody who has basically been one of the spawn points for rage music in the 2020s. People like Carson, I was about to say Carson Wentz.
Whoa. We're off to a start. We're off to a start. Ken Carson is what you're trying. There you go.
I was about to say Carson Wentz. Ken Carson, Yeet, and the like jumped out of the shadow that Playboi Carti has casted over hip hop recently. And yeah, he's dropped his latest album. I believe it's number 3.
Third album.
Right? Music, where it's interesting. We've been waiting on this for literally 5 years.
Yeah, this is his actually longest break between albums. His third project, last project, Whole Lotta Red, was in 2020. I believe that was was that Christmas or New Year's Eve?
It was Christmas.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
We reviewed that. Do you remember that?
I remember.
It was an emergency review.
We're going to talk about it. I like the word emergency here. But I don't know that Playboi Carti's music feels like Christmas to me. But things can change. We remember we were talking about that album and how long it felt like it had been since he had dropped, even though Dialect was only 2 years away.
Right.
And I thought about the difference in the narrative around Playboi Carti at that time compared to this time. And that's what I've been thinking about in preparing for this review, is how we talked about the hype and anticipation, which of course now is at a whole different level. But at that time, there was a lot about the leaks. And there were so many leaks happening. And I think that just fed the algorithm, the fan base, the fandom to want more from him and be ready for a new album from him. I wasn't a fan of Whole Lotta Red. I gave it a 3.5. Do you remember what you gave it?
I think I gave it a 5.
You gave it a 5?
Yeah.
This album is from such a time that in the description, it says follow us on Clubhouse.
Oh. The good old days.
The good old days. So, shout out to those times.
Yeah.
And then I want to go back a bit further to the start of his career, because even though I'm not a huge Playboi Carti fan, he's always been an artist that I felt some kind of kinship to because of his ties with ASAP Mob. He first signed to Awful Records in 2014, just before he got to ASAP Mob. And then 2 years later in 2016, it was signed to OGG, which is ASAP Mob's record label, in a joint venture with Interscope. And that was where the hype was building. He appeared a bunch of times on those ASAP Mob mixtapes. The hype was starting a little bit. And it's so interesting because at that time, I don't think you could have seen that it would become what it became. There was a bunch of hype. It was starting, but I don't think anyone could have predicted Playboi Carti having one of the biggest debuts in Spotify history.
I know. Fuck.
And his first mixtape, it featured Magnolia, Woke Up Like This. That was the start. That was the beginning. And it's crazy to think of where his music is now sonically compared to where he began. His debut album came out in 2018. Die Lit. It peaked at number 3 on Billboard 200. And that to me was the actual start of the insane fandom of Playboi Carti. I think around the time where Magnolia and Woke Up Like This were out,
it was cool.
People were fans of him, but it wasn't as crazy as it is now. I think Die Lit was really the moment where it got pretty crazy. I'm going to talk a bit about kind of this time before this project, before we get into the production, but I want to know what kind of Carti fan you are. What is your favorite Playboi Carti song?
So for me, I would say Die Lit is the A1 Playboi Carti project, even though it's not the most popular. Because now we're getting to a point where the latest.
I was saying. I was like, I think it's the most popular.
No, it was like the latest
by the numbers.
Yeah, yes. Whatever comes out latest is the most popular version of Playboi Carti. But to me, "Shoulda" is my favorite Playboi Carti song because
very interesting.
I think I'm the only person that has this vision, but that is like, if you're going to make a hip hop Christmas song, but actually good, that's what it would sound like, because it has like those, like literally the jingle bells in the background, and the crash of the rest of the production when Playboi Carti is on the hook is amazing. I think that it's like the perfect combination between Uzi and him, because Uzi is a person that loves a drop, right? But he's also good at setting up the drop, right? So he's doing the setup, and then Carti comes in and does the hook for the drop. And so you're getting the repetition of Playboi Carti, but you're getting the setup from Lil Uzi. So it's actually, to me, I think like one of they're probably their best song together, I think.
I'm not mad at that. I think that's I think that could be the best song together.
Yeah. What about you? Do you have a favorite one? I'm actually so curious because you were there at the very beginning, where he actually sounded normal when he rapped.
Yeah, and I think the fun thing about this pod, I guess fun for who is the real question, but is that I'm critical of a lot of artists that I actually grew up with and I've been fans of for a while, Playboi Carti being one of them. My favorite Playboi Carti song actually is not that much of a surprise if you know me at all. It's Lean For Real with Skepta.
Okay.
That song is platinum on my iPhone. Like, it's in a bunch of my workout playlists. When I play music when everyone's playing ball, I always put that in the playlist.
Oh, wow.
So that's one for me. But before we talk about the hype coming up to this project, I want to talk about the features on Die Lit, because he has a bunch of features on this project, and Playboi Carti is almost similar to Kendrick Lamar in this way, where narrative-wise, he has led his fan base to believe, I am not in the center of things. I'm more to the left. I'm not mainstream. I'm more to the right, to the left of things. I'm not pop, okay? I'm doing things underground, what people aren't doing. Now, I don't think that's ever really been true, but the features on this project is part of why I think...
For Die Lit,
because he's done a good job of having the persona and narrative of an underground artist while working with the biggest artists. Young Nudy, Young Thug, Gunna, Chief Keef, Bryson Tiller, Nicki Minaj, Lil Uzi Vert, Travis Scott, and Skepta. A whole lot of plaques in all those names. A whole lot of plaques.
Yeah, but I would say when this album came out, he was well connected, but his art, like his profile, wasn't as large as I think you are retroactively saying that it is now. Because I think last time, I think before Whole Lotta Red, I would have to go back into our conversation dialogues, but I would be like, I think Playboi Carti is the next guy. I think he's going to be it. No, he's going to go number correct. One.
That's what you were saying.
I was saying that, and you're like, I don't know. He's kind of underground. Like, I don't see how the sound can break through. It's not close enough to the center. So I think you're retroactively being like, oh, this guy, it was always supposed to happen. Look, Nicki Minaj is on it, Lil Uzi Vert's on it, Skepta's on it. It's like, no, he was just connected like that.
Well, I don't know if I thought it was always supposed to happen even now. That's not what I feel. I feel more that he's always been in the mix with the popular artists.
Okay.
I think when you think of the artists he's connected to pop rap.
Yeah.
And who's in the middle of it. And I think the artists you named that have been inspired by him and who kind of follow in his footsteps are not really that. And so I think that's what I mean of the persona and narrative being that they're more on the left when, again, the Ken Carson, the Destroyed Lonelies, they're actually more on the left and underground.
Yeah.
Playboi Carti is like, y'all be over there. I'm gonna be here making these hits. So I think he's done actually a great job over these years of cultivating that even more. Of the more popular he gets, the more he's seen as that kind of underground, left of center artist. And that's, I think, and why I brought up Kendrick is that's hard to do being as successful as these guys are.
Yeah.
Whole lot of red, the features even get crazier when it's Future, Kid Cudi, and Kanye West.
Yeah.
So I think having to be on both sides successfully is something we don't see very often. Leading up to this project, I think the confusion of why he's so popular has grown even more.
Yeah.
Because there's not the one moment that really brought us here.
Yeah. It's actually been so curious because I think even a year ago, again, this is through the private text where I'm like, can you believe Playboi Carti is like, I think at the time he was like 40 million or 30 million. I'm like, can you believe that he's the most famous he's ever been and he hasn't released an album in 4 years? And that's when Popular came out. And he had collabed with Solange between, I think it was before Whole
That
Lotta
was
Red.
before that, yeah.
But he was like collaborating with Solange, collaborating with The Weeknd, but no project. But then if you were on TikTok at the time, his music is getting turned into edits 24/7.
Yeah.
Every single time, like the Pissy Pamper was getting put into edits. That song has never come out. Probably the most influential song that's never come out.
And I guess Kid Cudi eventually came out. But I was saying that and Kid Cudi.
Yeah, like that song technically is so influential, but never had an official release. But everybody who knows him knows that song.
Yeah.
So there's that. And his just continuous, just like this grandeur, like this like mysterious presence. He's probably the best person since The Weeknd to be able to harness like. Nobody knows what he's gonna do. Nobody knows when the song is coming out. Nobody knows when the album is coming out. Nobody knows when the concert is happening, when it's canceled, when it's happening. When are we getting the vinyl? Are we getting the CD? Like nothing. Nobody knows anything, right? And he's been able to just. He's like a black hole where he just literally just sucks in all of this fandom, all of this aura. Literally, he's one of the people that legitimately Playboi Carti has aura, and he's just sucking in all of this like just all this mystique. And it got to a point where anytime he appeared on anything, it's like, oh my God, Playboi Carti's on it. Can you believe that Playboi Carti's going to be on it? And because his sound, like what his vocal, like anything he does vocally, and just like his sound from Whole Lotta Red and Die Lit, how anomalous it was at the time that anytime he appeared on anything, it was just like, oh, what is it going to be? Right. And he's one of those few artists where that is still something that people think about. Like Kanye West used to be like that. Anytime like a new album was coming out, you weren't even thinking about what he's going to say. You're just like, what the fuck is this going to sound like?
I think you're representing one side of the group. There's also another side that it could live without him being on all these songs.
That's okay.
but I think that's part of how he got here. And I think that he's an example of the fan base is just so loud. Like they only talk about Playboi Carti in capital letters.
Yeah.
They don't know how to like moderately like something.
Boy music, as they're calling it.
That's accurate. But I think that he's one of those artists that all his fans are super fans.
Yes.
There's a lot of artists who it's like, I'm cool. I like them, but it's not that deep.
Yeah, there's no casual Playboi Carti.
Playboi Carti doesn't have those fans. And I think that is part of what brought him here. You mentioned Popular. That song did very well, over 1 billion streams on Spotify.
Oh, Madonna, and The Weeknd. Superstar status.
For sure. Carnival with him and Kanye.
Superstar status again?
That was a big one. Fiend with him and Travis Scott. I think that was the one that really, really took it to a whole different level. And then Timeless with him and The Weeknd. Yeah. And then big as track. Well, Type Shit with him, Travis Scott, and Future.
Yeah.
So he's had very, very successful singles.
Monster feature run. That's a huge, huge feature run, legit.
A huge feature. And why I'm mentioning all of those is because maybe Type Shit, I would say, and possibly Carnival, but most of those songs, Playboi Carti isn't like the part of the song to most people.
Yeah, to most people.
To most people. Again, to the fans,
we're like,
anything he does is the greatest thing ever.
Well, to me, it's like when you see him next to The Weeknd and Madonna. First of all, him and The Weeknd are probably the most underrated collab duo in music right now. But him, if you see him next to The Weeknd and Madonna, you're like, yo, this is different shit. Like, like for him to be from his peers, he's on that level, right? He collabs with Travis Scott, Kanye West, The Weeknd, Madonna. So for the super fans, right? They're like, he's really like, he's the zenith. He's the top. He's the master influencer. I've said this before. He's the most influential rapper, hip hop artist in the 2020s. He is, right? And his peers are like, he's on this level. He's on the level of Kendrick Lamar. He's on the level of Travis Scott, Madonna, The Weeknd, Kanye West. So it's really just like this like super fandom and the critical, not even like critical, well, actually critical acclaim too, but like within the closed doors, they're like, this guy's the best. This guy is amazing. So there is this weird tandem, like this joining of like two different parties where like the masses are here, but everybody else, the super fans and the people who literally are the musicians are like, this guy's amazing. So they're all joining and they're like, yeah, this is sick, happening above all of the general populace. And it's just so happening that the general populace is like, oh, these super fans this is kind of interesting what they're talking about. This Playboi Carti, Cartier. And then you have, they're catching up. And then everybody else is, the people I was just talking about, they're having a party. They're like, yeah, we've been here.
I think, and this we'll talk about more at the end of the podcast, but I think he is such a example of where music is in terms of a fan experience, even if you are a fan or not a fan of someone, because I think his fans create the conversation around his actual music.
Yeah.
And I think that there's still a group of people who don't really understand what it is he's doing, why he's on these songs.
Yes.
And why I mentioned all those features before we talk about this actual album is that none of these features, I would say maybe Fiend. Fiend is probably the one that is Playboi Carti's sound and his part of the song really stands out. But the rest of these songs almost could have existed without him. And I don't know how many people became fans of him from these songs.
Right.
Like, I would love to know in the comments. Let us know. Comment on Spotify, comment on YouTube. Did you become a fan of Playboi Carti from these songs? But that's not the feeling that I get, that someone heard Carnival and was like, oh my gosh, now I'm a Carti fan. Or heard Popular, now I'm a Carti fan. So when we talk about his feature run and the hype that's building, it's very unique in the way that he's not, quote unquote, grabbing fans from these bigger fan bases. His fan base is just almost getting powered up.
Yeah.
And saying, oh my God, look how great he is.
Yep.
And that's not something we always see. We usually see, okay, Sleepy Hollow and Doechii have the song that's out right now. The fan bases are coming together and they both rise, getting more fans. So I think it's very interesting because the thing about Playboi Carti is talking about what he's doing musically.
Yeah.
And I want to start with production because I mentioned this on the Yeet review, and I think this is where I'm going to start with this review, is all the Playboi Carti fans tell me that his lyrics is not the point of the song.
I agree.
I think his actual voice and what he's doing with that and his flows is more the part of the song. But the real star of this album to me is the production, and Playboi Carti doesn't produce. And so I've always thought that this is, I guess, almost where hip hop is now, where we don't give producers the credit in the same way that we used to. But this is our third album where we're saying the production is what makes him him. And the producers are not getting that credit. So
Filthy's getting his credit. Filthy definitely gets his credit.
No, for sure. But Filthy's not the biggest Playboi Carti. I think obviously Pierre Bourne was one of those who got a lot of credit and grew from that. But I think that the Playboi Carti stands act as if Playboi Carti is making the beats. And obviously they know that he's not. And maybe they don't know. Let me say that. Maybe they don't know that he's not. But that's how they act, as if he made this beat himself. When that's not what's happening. So I think that's a place to start for me because the production on here, there are so many songs on here that I love the production. Like I love the production on this album. Like Wheezy is a one that I want to start with.
Yeah, that's one of the best. Ones.
I like that beat a lot. I think the voices in unison plus those light chords, and I think what makes this album special in its own way is that it actually is a different sound than Whole Lotta Red and Die Lit.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that we don't give him enough credit for sonically, even though he's not making the beats, just changing his sound another time is something that we don't always see artists, rappers do. But like Wheezy is one of those where I was like, oh, he got something with this.
Yeah, I think that Playboi Carti, and I've said this. This is a lot of shit that I've said privately that I am now airing out. But I've said this for a while, where Playboi Carti has legit vision. Like I think that because of how visceral his music is, and because his lyrics are sometimes, let's say, de-emphasized, right? It's easy for people from the outside to look at Playboi Carti and be like, it's kind of just noisy, or kind of just like ear candy, or it's kind of just like for fun, or like I said, quote unquote, boy music, which I call it amusingly. It's easy to say, oh, it's kind of just like weird music that dudes are really into, white kids are really into, and they just like to mosh to. But you listen to the progression of his sound from self-titled to now, it's bounced like 4 or 5 different times.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to a point where him and Pierre, like he barely makes shit with Pierre anymore, right? And when Die Lit came out, we were like, oh my God, Pierre Bourne is like this brilliant mastermind, this airy production, and like it's so free, and like you're allowing all this space. And then when he did Whole Lotta Red, everybody's like, oh my God, filthy, and it's so dark, and it's like this very vampiric, gothic style of production. And now we're here talking about music where I would say it's gotten to a point where he's taken some of the songs are vampiric in the same way, but it's more like a dark version of vampiric. So like Wake Up Filthy is my I think #1 track, and I put like a million asterisks next to it to make sure that I talk about it. This is one of the songs where the production totally feasts on that vampirism that he was talking about on a Whole Lotta Red. But before, it was like erratic, right? And a lot of screaming. This time, it's like slow, dark, and it's like almost, instead of a vampire, like again on a Whole Lotta Red, it was like more of Dracula was playing the organ in his house. This is more like Dracula is stalking the prey type of production.
Walking him down.
Yeah, right? And that is something that I just thought was so interesting. It's like this call and response of the industrial sound. But we're talking about, now I'm saying industrial, right? Which was not something you were ever saying about Playboi Carti's music in the past. So to me, I just want to stress for people that are watching this or listening to this, I'm like, Playboi Carti has real artistic vision. Like this, it's hard to be on songs with The Weeknd, Kanye West, Future, and Travis Scott and not have like a production, like my music needs to sound like this. My music needs to sound like that. It's like, we're not doing that anymore. Like Die Lit, he doesn't do Die Lit songs anymore. He's just like, I'm off it, you know? So, and for people to start copying his style is something that really shows me like, okay, this guy's ahead, right? And people are just trying to figure out how to get to it. And a song like Wake Up Filthy is another song where I'm like, I think this is another song where people are going to be like, how can I grind it down as slowly as possible and make it as dark as possible, but still have this, the call and response that exists on this type of track?
I think my main problem with this project is almost how much I love the production, because I think he does so much of the production a disservice.
You think so?
I think it reminds me of what you said about Vultures, that Kanye is the worst part of all these songs. That's like,
you think that really?
Carti is the worst part of so many of these songs. So many of these songs, I hear the beat and I'm like, yes, we gonna get something. And then he starts rapping and it's like, what beat are you hearing that I'm not hearing? and I think that the part of the mix between his cadence and the flows he chooses over this production really comes to head in HBA. HBA is the kind of production I like. Like, that is a song that I'm like, okay, we are going somewhere with this. And I listened to it twice the first time I heard it, and I said, I like it, but I don't like him on it. And I think that the first of all, production on this album is incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
A1.
Across the board.
A1.
There are very few songs that I'm like are just bad production. It's so atmospheric and thematic in so many of these songs that still give that kind of mosh, crash out energy. And it's like to have that same no bystanders energy, but it still feel, again, cinematic in a way we don't usually get at all, period. But I think that there's some of these songs on here where, and maybe this will be the influence of these are all songs people freestyle over and redo, like, who knows. But he has a lot of beats on here that we've had this on reviews where we hear a beat or a production and we're like, oh my goodness, if so-and-so was on this, that whole album is that. Like, this whole album to me is if so-and-so was on this. Walk is one of those for me, the horns and the stuttering hi-hats. It's just kind of so triumphant at the beginning, like something really big is about to happen. And it reminds me of something from the Young Money era, of that like 2009, 2010, 2011, again, Drake, Nicki, Wayne, Tyga. And I thought to myself, I said, I think that there's a disconnect here where the production is actually that good. I think he's probably underrated in his production choices, because the production actually is that good. But I think, at least in hip hop, when you hear a phenomenal beat and someone wastes it, it is one of the most disappointing feelings you can feel as a music listener. And I think that the first time I listened, I was like, okay, there's a lot of great beats on here. And the more I listened to it, I was like, these beats are actually better the second and third time.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the more appreciation I had for the production on here almost made the album harder for me to listen to, because it felt like so much wasted beats. There are a couple that are good. Like, it's not all bad, of course.
Yeah.
But I think the connections he has and the features he has, it's like you could have featured your way into a better album and had better people on it. So I have a couple more production notes, but I'll let you go. But I think the production on here is so good that it makes what he does even more egregious.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying. I hear you. And this is reminding me of the Saw Baby review right now.
I have some Saw Baby things to say, so I love where you're headed. We're in the right place.
This reminds me of the Saw Baby review where we're like, oh yeah, the production is phenomenal, but I feel like he's not really doing, like, he's doing it a disservice, or he's not, I feel like if we had a different person. And then, first of all, everybody else was like, this shit is amazing. And then months later, I came back and listened to it. I'm like, I feel like we missed the boat. I realized what was happening. And with this album, Music, I feel like what you're saying is like a replay of that, where I'm like, actually, I think the production's amazing. And I think that when I listen to this album, I hear Playboi Carti trying a lot of things, like a lot of just like,
he's definitely trying things. Yeah,
he's trying things, but he's trying things other people don't try, right? Like, his voice, first of all, his voice has been like, on top of the production, his voice, like what his voice sounds like, has been like one of the leading conversations behind his music. And I think that this album, we got the singles before, was like Hood by Air, Evil Jordan, where he altered his voice, where he was not sounding like this, right? Where it was like really dark or really deep, which is the complete contrast to what his typical voice is. There's like baby voice Carti and speaking Cardanese, right? Yeah. And this album, Music, I want to make sure that I'm saying Music, is where he committed to it. He's like I'm going to figure out if I can get the deep voice to work. Because again, I'm telling you, he has vision. Like, he's like, I already mastered the high pitch voice. I already did that for the two albums, 3 projects in total. I already did that. it's already been influential. People are already trying to copy it in multiple different ways. People like Coaches and, you know, Lucky and like, you know, and all the other people we've been talking about already trying to make their version of it. I'm off it. I'm going for the deep voice, right? And I think that, you know, use a song like Crank is where the deep voice really, really, really works. Where I'm like, nobody can even do what he was trying to do with that deep voice and get away with it. Like I felt like he was getting away with it. I'm like, nobody else can attempt something like that.
I actually like his voices on here. Like this is probably the album I've liked his voices the most. Me too. And it's funny you mentioned Saw Baby. I actually have in here like I wanted Saw Baby on this album.
Yeah.
Like how crazy is that? How far we've come? But I'm like I wish Saw Baby was on here because I think this album really brought into perspective this kind of music for me. And I think that there's almost this disconnect where the fans of this subgenre of music are always felt they're defending themselves against the Talib Kwalis of the world. And I think that is almost incorrect and to think of it in that way because there are so many talented artists, rappers who are in this lane who are also talented writers and rappers.
Yeah.
And I think about one of my favorites, Young Thug, where my favorite Young Thug songs are the ones where he's not saying nothing, but it just sounds cool. He's just floating, doing all the different flows in the same song. Those are my favorite Young Thug records. And I think that to me is what I felt like was missing here was he was so experimental with his flows in his voice that I don't know if he actually found the thing.
Right.
I appreciate the experiment, but there's certain songs where I was like, I don't know if you found the actual thing here. And I think the songs that made it clear for me was the first Travis Scott feature and the second one, Crush and Philly.
Yeah, I like Crush a lot.
Crush, production-wise, one of my favorites on here.
Yeah.
The choir on the hook, I was like...
Yeah, he's been using those external vocals, choir vocals, R&B vocals, and that's working. And that you don't really think those type of vocals would work in rage music.
No, and I think it's a great movement. And I think personally, that's where I started saying we have to give more credit to the producers. It's still his choice to choose these beats. I give him a ton of credit for choosing this production style. He's obviously the leader in this sound, but the producers making these beats, like we're talking about 6-7 beats on here that we are revolutionary.
Yeah.
So I think we have to give the producers even more credit.
Yeah. I will say a little Kanye West influence on this because Kanye is definitely
big Kanye influence on this.
Yeah.
But I think on Philly with Travis Scott is not seen as some lyrical rapper. He's not seen as some amazing wordsmith. But when him and Carti juxtapose on this song, it's almost two different worlds in terms of flows and melodies and rapping ability. And I would never think that I would hear Travis Scott in a song with someone else and say he's a superior rapper. That does not sound like it makes sense to me. But Travis Scott, one, sounds superior, but like a lot better, even in the thing Carti seems like he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think of Travis Scott as kind of the example of, at least vocally, where it's like, I'm not saying nothing too deep. I'm trying to give you some flows, some different voices. I use the auto-tune.
Yeah.
Melody sometimes. And I think that is where I felt like the fandom is almost surpassing the actual music we're listening to, because I just think from an objective standpoint on this album, there are so many points where Carti seems to not achieve that cool flow or that, cool melody. He's trying.
Yes.
But it's not landing. And I think that's why I brought up Saw Baby is he was landing those melodies and those flows. I wanted him to say something, and that is not something I'm going to ever ask of Carti. I think that's obvious. But I think that was my main issue on here. I like Radar a lot.
You like Radar? I couldn't get behind Radar.
But it's funny. I was about to say, Radar, I think, is a song I like because of the age difference between us.
That was a great
produced by Metro Boomin. But he samples Young Thug and Young Jeezy. So it's like that's my home right there. Like you're talking about my favorite Atlanta rappers.
Those are your guys.
Those are my guys. So you sample Young Jeezy, sample Young Thug. I want to hear it. So those are my last production notes. And before I even talk about lyrics, I think talking about what he chose to do with his voice and the song structure, I think helps here because he has a few songs on here where the song structure, you can see he's kind of, developed and grown in that way. I think even Evil Jordan, the intro into that.
Yeah.
I think Mojo Jojo, what he did on that song.
Ooh, we're not even talking about one of the more interesting things to me. Kendrick Lamar. Like I said before, he's on. We need to understand Playboi Carti is on this level. I need everybody to understand.
I'm going to stop you. You're doing the thing that I said their fans are doing. No one is saying he's not on that level.
No, people are saying it.
See, you're defending it before it's. You see what I'm saying? You're starting out defending him being on that level when the evidence is all there. Some people might not like him or understand it, but no one's arguing he's not on that level. They might just not like him or understand why he's there. So you starting out defending him being there is what I'm saying you guys are already doing. Now do you see what I'm saying? You just did it live and direct. It's like, you don't have to defend him. He's there. He's been there. We can move on.
Fine. Okay. I like this I really like the combination with Playboi Carti and Kendrick Lamar. I think that is nobody really, I think we saw the track list. I think they were talking about the features before the album actually came out, and they're like, what the fuck is Kendrick Lamar going to do on a Playboi Carti song? But I think their combination is really interesting because up until this album, I would say that Playboi Carti was the adlib guy. It was kind of similar to Quavo, but it was really like, I just want Playboi Carti on my song to do the adlibs. Like
Playboi Carti songs used to be mostly adlibs.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that was his thing.
Right? So it was really interesting to see on Mojo Jojo where he was the primary person rapping and Kendrick Lamar is just like, we go dummy. Yeah. Mojo Jojo. You know what I mean? In the background, like
it worked.
The roles flipped because you would think that if you were ever going to do that combination, it would be Kendrick Lamar rapping and you have Playboi Carti doing the ad libs, but they flipped it, and I felt like it worked because the voice worked. How do we even describe that voice? Oh, actually, we'll talk about that right after. But it worked. The voice worked, and then Kendrick Lamar, I feel like, is starting to loosen his iron grip that he has on his music, where he's like, yeah, I'll be in the background. I'll just do the chanting in the background, or I'll just do the ad libs, like trying to make it a little bit more fun. You know what I mean? And I thought it was sick. I thought that was something that I never would have predicted happening genuinely. I never thought that Kendrick Lamar and Playboi Carti would have a crossover. And for it to be on Playboi Carti's terms and that role reversal, I thought that was just amazing. I thought that was so cool.
I liked it a lot, and I like to see it from Kendrick. I was happy to see Kendrick on this project because this is the role he's in now. He's the leader. He's the hit-making guy.
Yeah, you gotta have to be there.
This is what you do when you're the hit-making guy. And I think it's very interesting that he's hopping on this album because I don't think had this battle not happened, he's on this project. Because there was that rumor that Playboi Carti wanted Drake on the project and Drake declined, knowing Kendrick was on the project. And I think that this is one of the things we see after the beef. We were asking a couple months ago, how is hip hop going to be after the beef? How are things going to change? Mojo Jojo is the example of how things are going to change.
Yeah,
because this song I don't think happens if the beef doesn't happen. That's personally what I think. I think this is part of Kendrick Lamar saying,
that's so interesting.
I'm the guy now. This is what I got to do. Because in reality, there's not really a crossover between Kendrick and Carti musically.
Yeah, not really.
But there's a crossover in popularity.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's like
absolutely.
We can do that there. So I liked it actually.
Yeah, me too.
It kind of made me think that when we're talking about the future of what hip hop's going to be in terms of the hit makers and all that kind of stuff, it made me feel like hip hop is going to be in a real bereft place for hits.
Come on.
No, just because I think I like that song, but that song isn't a quote unquote hit in the traditional way.
Yeah.
I can't see that playing on the radio and the middle-aged white mother singing along to that.
What about Rather Lie though? Do you think that could be a hit?
Rather Lie, I think has a shot, but I personally think, and this goes with what I said earlier about his run of features. these songs that he's on are almost hits in spite of Playboi Carti. Like, I know I'm being serious because like you have to look at it like, I'll give the example of a hit from our childhood.
Okay.
Baby with Justin Bieber and Ludacris.
Yeah.
Think of all the people who can rap Ludacris's whole verse in Baby. They might not be hip hop fans,
Right.
but when Baby comes on, you've seen it. You know they rap Ludacris's whole verse.
Yeah.
Playboi Carti has been on a few different big pop songs in the past few years. Have we seen that? We haven't.
Right.
And so I think like
The Playboi Carti hook on Popular.
we haven't seen that. So I think there's a part where he's not taking away from the song to stop it from being a hit, but it's not like he's a sticky part of the song that everyone's attached to. So yes, I think it. The short answer is yes. I think it can and will be a hit.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for Playboi Carti remains to be seen. Because my example of Justin Bieber, Baby, when Ludacris's part comes on, there's people who are like itching for that part of the song to come on. And I don't know if that's happening on Playboi Carti and all these hits in the same way. So remains to be seen. But I do think what he's done with this project is impressive in its own special way.
Yeah, production on that song is really, really unique. Like, I can't really think of a different. The only person. So the way that Rather Lies, like these like angelic vocals in the background, and it's like very airy, very breathable, but still has a trap instrumentation underneath it. And the only thing I can really compare to that is like Young Nudie, Saw Baby a little bit.
Okay, I can see that.
Saw Baby, the previous Saw Baby album actually sounds like this. And that one album, that Forgotten, that fan-made album with Drake, has a similar style of production too. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is like very out of the box for him.
I'm so interested to see how this goes, and I have one set of lyrics here.
Okay.
But why I'm so interested in this is because Playboi Carti is in such a unique spot where his music will be quote unquote popular and hugely successful without it actually reaching the masses.
Yeah, man.
And well, that's what it's been so far. Like, it's only really his fans that bump his music. Like, I think that I'm the rare in-between person where I came up with Carti and was around where I can name some of these songs, but I think the general hip-hop fan can't name you 5 Playboi Carti songs.
Right.
And I think for someone to be this popular and do this well, commercially, how often have we seen that where you're this popular commercially, but I can't name any of your songs? It's like, this is, and I'm not saying this disrespectfully, I mean this with the utmost respect. Like Pitbull.
Oh.
No, but something. But Pitbull, people know his song. They just don't like them. You know what I mean? It's like I hear his songs out enough. They play wherever you go. Where it's like, I know this Pitbull song with Neo or Usher or whoever. I just don't like this song.
We don't like Mr. Worldwide.
But Playboi Carti is more like people in hip hop at least don't even know some of these records. And so that's the thing where I can't think of an artist, and in the comments, let us know, is there an artist like that where they're just insanely popular, but the center of hip hop just doesn't know their records? Like,
yeah, it's really interesting in that frame, because this is gonna sell like hotcakes.
It already is.
Yeah.
Projected for 300,000 plus.
300,000. So it's weird because it's like he's in a weird spot. Like Playboi Carti is such a weird artist because songs like Kid Cudi / Princely Pamper. Then there's songs like Magnolia, right? But then you have, I'm trying to think, what was the biggest song off of Die Lit? Like R.I.P.?
Probably Shada, no?
Or Shada, right? So he has this explosivity, but it's contained. It's like explosivity in a dome.
Yes.
Right? But the dome continues to expand, where like you're just seeing these crazy colors, crazy experiments, all this stuff. But it's within a dome, and the dome keeps expanding. So there's a lot of songs where you're like, yo, this is a big track. RIP, big track. What is it? Teen X on Whole Lotta Red, big track. Rockstar Made, that was big, right? But if you're going to ask your average person, is like, yo, have you heard Rockstar Made? They're like, by who? Rockstar Made by who? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So I think he's really unique because it's still going to sell like crazy. So he's kind of like I don't know, like Gucci Mane is probably like similar to that. I don't know. I can't really think of it.
Gucci was never this popular.
Yeah, it's never that popular.
But I think Gucci's different because Gucci is the opposite, where like everyone knows Gucci's records. Like the center of hip hop, that's Gucci's core. They know him. They're familiar with him.
Right. But the explosivity wasn't as huge. It's contained. That's what I'm trying to.
And well, I don't know if it was contained because Gucci was quote unquote mainstream in a way where he had big records. That
Playboi Carti's technically. There's no way you can't say he's mainstream.
But this is something I think the figure of him is mainstream.
Yeah.
His actual music is a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's more where I'm like, it's a unique scenario where everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
But how much people are going to hear a Playboi Carti song and go, Playboi Carti? They might use his name as a reference to a song they don't like, of like some Playboi Carti shit.
Right.
People will say that, but a lot of people will hear songs and be like, I don't know who that is.
Right.
And I think what makes him unique in this sense is that his fan base and what he's accomplished is so loud that you're aware of it without even being tapped in.
Yes, that's true.
And I think he's kind of the GOAT of that kind of artist, because two artists I think of in this lane is one is Rod Wave, where
Facts.
Rod Wave is like not as big as Playboi Carti, doesn't have those big features, but Rod Wave in his world,
massive. You can't escape
huge.
him. Yeah.
And I don't know that many Rod Wave songs, but I know people who are huge Rod Wave fans and are die for him. And the other one, I guess these guys go together, is Chef G and Sleepy Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people who like, that's their whole, everything they listen to.
Yeah.
It's Chef G, Sleepy Hollow. And if you go look at the numbers on those guys, they stream extremely well. You would be surprised at how many songs they have over 100 million streams.
Mm-hmm.
But is everyone aware of them? Can the average hip hop listener name one of their songs or know their voice? Probably not.
Yeah.
And so Carti is probably just the GOAT of this kind of category, where everyone knows who he is, but his actual music isn't as big. And I think that almost has helped with the aura because it continues on this project. And I don't think that there's something on this project, maybe Rather Lie, but I don't think on this project that's going to change where there's going to be that one Carti song everyone knows. Because I was talking about Carti this past week, and someone's like, maybe I know if I heard his song. And I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they heard Magnolia. Magnolia is probably his signature song. Even though that he is way more important, way more, like, there's so much more to him than Magnolia.
He's past that. But I think that was a song that I don't think people attached to him in the same way of like, oh, that's Playboi Carti. They might hear the song, oh, I know this song, but are they attaching that to him? And I brought up Type Shit because that was one of Future's biggest songs last year. You know, someone might know it. It's Future and Travis Scott. And someone said to me, I didn't even know Playboi Carti was on that song. And I'm like, that's what I mean of like all these features he has, these big hits where it's like the song is big in spite of him being on it, period. And then I think what he's doing lyrically, I know y'all listening, I know we're not here for the lyrics. But I think the problem here is that we're giving him so much leeway that he is lyrically in such a class of his own that I feel almost bad asking for more. But I think about someone like Gucci Mane. Gucci would have the one or two clever line here, the bar here that's like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Playboi Carti, 98% of his raps sound like when you're in college and everybody gets drunk and it's time to freestyle. That's what all his bars sound like. And I think the comparisons to the other quote unquote fun rappers is you've heard all of them bar it up at some point. Even if it's not serious or like serious in the content, they have lines where you're like, okay, he's spitting. Carti almost doesn't even have that in his bag at all.
Right.
And I tried to find one song where he gets close, but I couldn't. So I'm talking about his verse on Cocaine Nose.
Okay.
He says, all I do is win. All I do is cause pain. Headshots at your brain. Put a bitch in the food chain. Gucci snakes. Hold up. With slime on the plane. Stay with hood rat. Yeah. Cheer. 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 Food chain. Food chain. Cheer. Medusa snakes on a plane. She a hood bitch with something to gain. I'm going out with a fucking bang. She can't wait. She want to tap my name. There's nothing in there. No literary devices. no core tenets of hip hop. It really sounds. No, it really sounds like, again, your homeboy had one too many Four Locos and started freestyling. And I think I understand that you're here for the flows and the energy, but my main point here is there are dozens of examples in hip hop of someone not being a lyrical, miracle, spiritual rapper and giving you energy and flows and at least being adequate at rapping.
Yeah.
If this was a basketball analogy, he's dribbling the ball off his foot every time he comes into the game.
No, I don't think so. I think
he can hit shots. He can hit open shot, but don't ask him to dribble.
Yeah, I think that Playboi Carti, the lyrics are not the point, as we all know. I think if you are a person who even like is really thinking like, oh, what are the lyrics? You're just like, you're lost, right? I think that for me, when it comes to music, I think it's really about flow control, and the like really like the voice. I think the voice, because I think overall this album is going to be another one of those albums where people just pick apart and steal parts from.
Oh, for sure. I agree with that.
I think it just has so much shit in it that is just like, oh, I just want this part, I just want this part, I just want this part, I just want this part. And we've been even doing that ourselves. But I think on Wake Up Filthy, again, my number one song, this is the song. This is in verse 1, right? Where the voice, like, this is the gold. This is peak the deep voice. Like, this is the best it will ever sound or has sounded. Where he's like, I know some bitches that are ready to hit it. They pop in that shit. Right? That part. Paint on her pussy. I suck on that titty. I turn that tit. Oh, you in Savannah? Come to Atlanta. Come get this dick. Me and Filthy. We getting filthy. So filthy rich. And then he was like, So the control, I'm really talking about his vocal control being the thing that stands out to me on these tracks now. Like, you kind of, and I think it's important. You can do that face. I'm telling you, this shit is gonna be important. 5 years from now, we're gonna be like, oh, everybody's copying the weird deep voice and they're trying to do this vocal change all the time. I don't think
it's not important. I just think it's almost like we're lowering the bar.
I don't think so.
Because I think he can have those things he does. Because I told you, I like them. Like, I think this is probably the album where I like who does his voice the most. Like, I think he does a good job with his voice all over this album. But it's almost like when you're talking about your favorite restaurant and the best thing in the restaurant is the fries. It's like,
the fries are lit? No.
No, but you don't go to a restaurant for the fries. That's not a good restaurant. So it's like, he can do that and do other things.
No, but chefs are coming to the restaurant to figure out, how do I make the fries like this so I can add it to my restaurant? But that's the difference.
I know. No, and I think, he's influential. So I think him being influential, I can never take that away from him. But I think that restaurant with the only good fries still doesn't have enough stars on Yelp. It's like, yes, the chefs are naming it as like, this is where I'm getting my recipe from for the fries. But when you go to eat there and you're looking it up and you go, 2.2 stars, I'm cool. So it's like, to me, I think it's a situation where two things can be true. He is one of the most influential figures in hip hop of all time. That is without question. But I think that when we kind of pick and choose what he's capable of doing, I think that's where we're doing a disservice to what I think we should be holding him to a certain standard. Because someone that's this influential, it's like, yes, you do have these great things you do with your voice. Yeah. But it's like, you can't just, it's like the two guys I mentioned, Young Jeezy and Young Thug. They have great voices. Their art in terms of what they do vocally is more than just the voice. Right. The voice alone is enough to make them legendary. But they do more than just voice. So I agree with you where you're saying this is voice, but I think making that the like high point of nothing else matters because he does things with his voice is a disservice in reality to what is really happening here, because there are plenty of artists with great voices who do great things. Yep. And we go, the voice is great. What can you do with it?
Right. I think because of the previous albums where Dial It, we were literally saying, nobody can understand what this dude is saying. It's Cardenese. He had the baby voice, unique production. Then we leave, 2 years, 3 years after that, we're like, that shit was probably one of the best albums of the 2010s. Then Whole Lotta Red comes out. It's like, Still using the baby voice. Production is going crazy. Haven't seen this before. Haven't heard this before. I even remember in a review where like the back half is actually amazing, but we don't know if anybody's gonna listen to the back half. Do you remember us saying that? Do you remember us saying that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then guess what happened? Every single person and their mom listened to that back half and trying to copy the back half, right? And now I'm here again with this album where I'm like, production is going crazy again. The vocals are weird and they've changed, and some of it is amazing. Like some of it, like I Wake Up Filthy is probably top 10, top 5 my favorite songs ever by Playboi Carti.
Wow.
Right? And so that vocal change is there, and we're seeing these things. He's doing things with the voice that nobody's even attempting. So I'm like, it's happening again, right? But we're like, oh, the lyrics are, nonsensical. They don't matter. I'm like, this is what it's always been. And then we come back 2 years from now, and we're like, oh, this is the most influential. This is such an amazing thing. How could we not see it? I'm like, I'm seeing it. I see it. I'm acknowledging it.
That's fair.
Just like I acknowledge it, Die Lit. If there's still that YouTube, or not YouTube, the Instagram video of me saying like, this is one of the most influential albums of the 2010s, then a whole lot of Red came out. So I'm just going to be here again in the face of everyone again.
Two things can be true though. Listen, I'm not saying he's not influential. I'm not looking for lyrics. I just want him to be able to hang adequately. That's why I keep mentioning rappers who are not lyrical.
But what I'm saying is like, you're trying to say hang adequately. I understand that. But it's hard to hang adequately in a place where nobody else exists. You're trying to bring a different frame to a place where he's the only person that exists there.
But I get what you're saying, and I think that's like, it's partly true, but to me it's almost like a caveat that is like gives him the pass to not hang adequately.
But there's nobody to hang with because he's the only one there. That's the thing what I'm trying to get at. Like, he's the only person doing that. So you're trying to be like, oh, but maybe if there's other people where like their lyrics aren't as good, but you can make it, they can sometimes do things. But I'm like, he's in a place where nobody else is even around. So to say, I was like, oh, you should be able to hang with this person. I was like, hang with who? There's nobody else here.
But what I'm saying is, I think what I'm asking for will make the music better. And I think like, and this is almost like, again, you're a huge Carti fan, so this is a different conversation, but I think the fandom and the influence he has is almost superseding the music. Because I'm like, I can see the influence he's going to have on this project with still saying the music could be better.
Right.
I think to Carti fans, the influence and what he's achieved and the greatness of him is enough. It's like, I don't need the music to be better. He's still Carti. That's good enough for me. And I think like, that's where I think there's a disconnect where, yeah, he's definitely influential. He's doing things with his voice that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
But would the songs be better if he could rap just as good as Travis Scott at least? Yes.
But Travis Scott can't even do the voice thing. That's the trade-off.
That's what I'm saying is, I think Travis Scott makes better music than Playboi Carti. But I think if Playboi Carti could rap just as good as Travis Scott, Playboi Carti would be just as influential and make maybe better music than Travis Scott.
Okay.
So it's like, to me, I think he's in a spot, and I guess this can lean more into his career. I think he's in a spot where his music isn't actually as good, but the influence and aura is on 10.
Yes, it is.
And for me personally, I don't look at anybody like, I'm not a celebrity person. No one has influence and aura to me personally. So I just really care about the actual music.
Right.
When I was growing up and my OG showed me music, I had no recollection of who was who and what was what. I'm like, I don't know what Maxwell did to the label or Lauryn Hill's first video.
Yeah.
Don't matter to me. Is the music good or is it not? And I think Playboi Carti is really the example of that in the modern era, where, again, his aura, his success, his influence means more to his fans than the actual music. Because I still feel like this album could have been a lot better if he was on a different level of rapper. Okay. And I don't even want him to be good lyrically, because I think lyrically, that ship has sailed. But that's why I'm bringing up rappers like Young Thug and Gucci, who are not lyrical, miracle, spiritual. The things he has in terms of vision of his voice, production, like no one else is really on that type of wave. Yeah. Like, even as much as I love Gucci, I was a huge Gucci fan, Gucci's choosing the same beats everyone else is choosing. Like,
yeah, nobody has really a song like Cocaine Nose, really.
Yeah, so it's like, for his career, I think this helps because it's his biggest project, the peak of his popularity.
Yeah,
maybe he'll never be popular again. We'll see. But I think it helps and hurts in two ways. It helps because, again, breaking all types of records in terms of sales. It is a 30-song album, so I'm taking that with a grain of salt.
Too fucking long. Yeah, what the fuck?
I love that record you're breaking, but 30-song album, I'm like...
Craziness, man. Craziness.
But I think what's happening is the people who are not Carti fans are understanding it even less. And I think he's not even in the Eminem zone where people say, Eminem can rap. I know Eminem can rap. He's skilled. He has songs I liked in the past. Carti is just a straight, I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah.
And I think
that's the best part.
As for some people.
That's the best part.
But I think Carti probably is the artist, maybe in music history, tell me if I'm wrong, with the space between how good his music actually is and how popular he is.
I don't agree.
Because
I don't agree.
I think that how popular he is, how good his music is, like, don't go together. And I can't think of someone who's like been in this group before. Playboi Carti is gonna be one of those artists that you trying to show like a person who's not on the internet and is not aware of the aura and influence his music is not gonna go well.
Yeah, I agree.
and I think like that test to me is what the music is.
Well,
like the strength of music is like, I can show you this without showing you what this person looks like, explaining it to you. I can just show you this song and you go, I like it or don't like it.
Yeah.
Playboi Carti almost never will pass that test.
Yeah, but like, how many people are you gonna be like, you're gonna put on Black Sabbath for them and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is
but
my
the other
vibe.
people you could like, I think it's more of like someone's taste. Like you could put Black Sabbath on for some people and they'll be like, I rock with this. Some people won't, but you know, I think of it like Lady Gaga last week. You could put on Perfect Celebrity for someone without having to know who Lady Gaga is, and they'll be like, oh my God, I like this. That's all it is. I think when you have to like be into his aura and like be a super fan to like his music, I think like the super fans can't see that, but like that is the problem within itself, you know? Because like, and this is why I said it's almost hurts his career is super fans. I think this is where they've gone off the deep end on this album in particular.
I don't think so.
You're a super fan.
I don't. I think I'm.
You're definitely a super fan.
I don't think a super fan. I think I'm really a person that just understands. Like I feel like I get it. Like I just get it. I understand because I like Ken Carson. Right, Destroy Lonely. I can give I can take it or leave him. I love Yeet. Right, so I exist in this space. Like I just get what we're trying to do. Like I understand.
Listen,
what
when
we're
I first met
forward.
you were a huge Playboi Carti fan.
I was. I still am. But to say I'm a super fan, like I'm a sycophant, is not true. I just understand. Like I get what we're trying to do. Like I get what rage music is trying to be. I get what it's trying. Like I get the degrees that it's trying to push. Right. Like somebody like, for example, you will never in a million years hear Drake trying to alter his voice the way that Playboi Carti does.
Yes.
Right. Kendrick Lamar, I would say, is on the periphery of doing something like that when it comes to his vocal delivery when he's rapping. Right. But you're never going to hear Kanye West do something like that. Like, think of anybody in the center of hip hop. The only person that is even close to something like this is Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
Right? So we're already in a different space, right? Where I'm like, we're already away from the middle.
Yeah.
And they're trying to, like, what is important to this style of music is not the same as what is important to the center or the history of hip hop. What he does and what this genre, this subgenre that he is such a prominent figure in, what is important to it is not the same as what it is for the rest of hip hop.
I agree.
So I think that to like this music, there is like an understanding of like, we are shedding the principles of the earlier versions. We're shedding what Kool Herc and the crew care about, fucking like Jay-Z cared about, what AZ cared about, what Nas cares about. We're shedding those principles.
I think that's going too far.
I don't think it is. Because the previous albums, you can't understand what he's saying. And it's insanely popular and it's influential in a way that it directly affects music. Like to view him historically is almost a mistake, I think.
I think even that take is wrong.
I don't think so. To view, because this is a new subgenre. So to be like,
no, it is a new subgenre, but
Are you gonna compare the Beatles to Paramore? Like, are you comparing the Beatles to Black Sabbath? You compare the Beatles to Metallica? It's like it's incomparable. It's not comparable.
This subgenre is definitely like frowned upon in hip hop, and I think that's been wrong. Like, I agree with you on that. But I think the tenets of this subgenre that you keep mentioning exist in the middle of hip hop currently. So it's like
yeah.
So I'm saying like those tenets aren't actually the problem that people aren't liking his music.
Yes, it is.
No, but I'm saying they exist in hip hop currently that people still like. Like Young Thug was not. You could understand what he's saying.
For ages people were hating on Young Thug. No, what are we talking about?
But what I'm saying is even
for Future.
But what I'm saying is they still became the center of hip hop and insanely popular, and people liked them despite that. That didn't stop them from becoming popular and well liked and the center of hip hop. So I'm saying like that's not a barrier to becoming the center of hip hop in the same way you're saying it is. It is for Carti, and then make it a Carti thing, but you're making it like this thing they don't understand.
Yeah.
Future and Young Thug were not able to be understood. Still had huge hit records. People love them. I do think that there is this understanding from Carti fans, almost like he's so left, like nobody gets it. And I think that the kind of stuff that people listen to, that people like, I'm not going to name names because I don't like that kind of stuff, but there's plenty of artists who I don't like who I feel like are not that much different from Carti, not much better than Carti, or like are worse than Carti. Like, I think of a Lil Baby last album and this is better than the Lil Baby's last album. And it's like, why is Lil Baby in the center of hip hop and everything he does is right in the smack dab in the middle, and this is not? It's like, that to me is more about Carti not being accepted than it's like what he's doing is this voice is so, because to me, I'd rather hear his voice than Lil Baby's voice every day of the week.
Okay.
So to me, I think the real disconnect here is how Carti fans view Carti and how everyone else views Carti.
Oh, if you think so, we can agree to disagree.
Well, you're the Carti fan, so I think that makes sense.
We can agree to disagree.
But let us know in the comments. I want to know what everyone thinks, but why I think this is hurtful for his career in that sense is that's the main reason why. Because the argument we just had for 20 minutes is I think Carti fans stood more on their square of how they feel about Carti, and the outside of his fan base stood more on their square how they feel about Carti. And I think less room was made in the middle to actually meet. And I think in the end, like, he'll be fine. Like, he'll be okay. But I think in terms of how he's like viewed and talked about and his legacy, I think that hurts his legacy.
No, I don't think so.
I'll tell you what, I think it hurts his legacy for such a large part of hip hop to not even understand. I think that's my more thing is like, I understand, but I don't think, I know that I'm not the majority of this side of hip hop that doesn't understand.
Right.
I think you can understand but not like him. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think there's a large majority that just doesn't understand, period.
I agree. So I think for Carti's career, ultimately, no matter what Playboi Carti does, I think that Dial It and especially Whole Lotta Red is cemented him in like the annals of hip hop history.
Yeah, and this too. I would include this in it too.
Right, and yeah, I would say music is part of it too. Where like no matter what, when you're talking about like top 50, he's going to have to be a part of it because his influence is so immense that it's like you can't not include him. Right, and the people that make those lists, the people that are like us, who are like, I would consider like the academics, are going to be like, Playboi Carti needs to be on this list, right? Your average person is going to be like, why is Playboi Carti and Lil B on the list? But the people like us will be like, the reason half these people fucking exist is because of Playboi Carti and Lil B.
you know who he's like in a sense, and I guess I don't even think he's as good as this player, but he's kind of like an Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson in this era, people talk about him.
He would love that comparison.
No, he's an AI guy. But I think in this era, people talk about AI as if he's an overrated player, but his influence on the game is huge. Like the only point guard to lead the league in scoring 4 times. Most of the NBA now is scoring point guards.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, maybe he wasn't as efficient, which would be Carti not being as lyrical, but it's like the influence is like so strong, you can't get away from it.
Everybody dresses like him. This ultimately for his career is incredible. It's the most he's probably ever going to sell. It's going to go at 300K. I think that a billion people are going to be taking shit from this album to go forwards. And I think that this was like really like, we are looking at Playboi Carti like, yo, this is Playboi Carti. You know what I mean?
By we, you mean the super fans.
I just think that his presence is undeniable. How do you deny 300K? It's undeniable.
We're
like
back. No,
I'm just saying, it's undeniable. The influence is undeniable. The sales are undeniable. What he's doing is you can't deny it. He just is that person.
He has hip hop split in a way we haven't seen in a very long time.
So it's like Drake, actually, early stage. Drake.
I would say like Lil Yachty maybe had it split in the same way.
That's true.
But I think like this split will always stand out to me because I think the side that doesn't rock with Playboi Carti feels to understand the side that does more than vice versa. And that usually is not the case. Usually the fan side understands the side that are not fans.
Yeah.
And this feels the opposite, which Playboi Carti is one of one, man. Like, I've never seen this before.
Everybody else is like, you guys are losers. You guys don't understand.
Let's talk about this cover. So much is going on this cover. Clearly he put his...
Wait, do you meant that seriously?
He clearly put his heart and soul into this. This is, you know, it's funny, and it's why I know I've been kind of taking the stance against him on this podcast, but I actually love Playboi Carti. I don't love his music, but I love what he's doing, what he represents, the fandom he's created.
Yeah, because his artistry is fun.
Yeah, no, it's like, as an objective person who doesn't care about his aura, it's fun for me to just watch everything happen. And a cover like this is part of it because I'm like, this is some bullshit. Yeah, like in reality, this is some bullshit. This cover is like, he made this in Canva in 10 minutes.
But you know what? It's a progressional degradation, not degradation, but stripping away of the album art. Because if you go to Playboi Carti, like self-titled, it's him multiple times, the girls multiple times, tons of color. Then Die Lit, no color. He's doing a somersault over everybody. And then on Whole Lotta Red, it's just him. And then red across the top. Now it's not even him, and it's just the words, right? On the white background. Whole Lotta Red had a white background with a black square of him. Now they're just white background completely, just the words. So the next thing he drops is probably just going to be a white square.
100%.
Which the Beatles did, so we can't even say that was bullshit. And also, they did that, the White Album.
No, I know, but I can still say it's bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
The Beatles can't have done some bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
The Beatles aren't past bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
They're just humans, man.
The Beatles, or even Kanye West released what was
Yeezus,
and it was literally just a CD.
No, for sure. No, like you can, you know, paint this with the vision of what he's trying to do for sure, but you still can't. This is a great album cover. You know, it's like the Beatles' White Album cover is nostalgic and classic because of the music on the actual album.
Okay,
the cover itself, I don't think it's like, oh, like
the White Album.
Yeah, I think Yeezus is the same way, where it's like seeing the like just the album itself. I was like, oh my God, this is so, like, that moment of seeing just the CD, like, that was a moment, that was a thing. That as an actual album cover, taking away the context of everything, not a great album cover. So this to me is like, I get if you want to really analyze it and, you know, he's stripping away stuff. Yeah. Sure. But this to me is like, I feel like he's actually had really good covers in the past. Right. So I was disappointed to see this cover because I like the Whole Lot of Red, I like a lot. Me too, I like a lot. So I was disappointed in this cover, but again, of course, he's Playboi Carti. Everything he does is golden. Best cover of all time. The vision. Playboi Carti or die.
I think the cover is cool.
What's cool about it?
I just think I just described it to you. It's a progression of the covers.
No, take that out of it.
That's not how it works.
It's just a cover. But that's the thing, like, you're assigning context to make it cool.
But that's what it. But it's contextual. Music is contextual.
No, it's a cover. It's a cover of an album. Is it a good cover on its own?
On its own?
Because what you're saying of him stripping away the color from the other albums, he could have done that and had a better cover.
I don't know. I think I still like the cover. I still like the cover. The
Playboi Carti fandom is so strong.
I still like the cover. It's still using his, you know, the opium black, right? Black and white is an opium thing. So it still thematically fits everything that's happening. So okay. I think the cover is cool.
Is this no skips for you?
No. Easily skippable. I think songs like I Didn't Like Radar, Toxic, I'm not a fan of. Mm-hmm. I think the Skeptaverse didn't work for me. And then there's a bunch of songs. There's songs like Trim, Jumpin', didn't work for me. But those are... You know, it's a 30-song album, so there's gonna be misses. Like I feel like there just has to be. What about you?
No, it's not no skips.
But is it a vinyl cop?
No, it's just 30 songs. A 30-song vinyl is crazy. Are you on drugs?
Chris.
Yeah, like a 30-song vinyl is insane. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
vinyl cop,
Yeah.
unfortunately. This would be like, what, 5, 6? Maybe. It's maybe 6 of them.
I was gonna say minimum 6.
Yeah,
like
that's crazy.
no more than 6. 6 times 4 is what, 24.
Yeah.
So
7? Lunacy. Okay. All right. The moment everybody's been waiting for. This is the moment everybody's been waiting for.
Mhm.
Playboi Carti's music. Adriel. What is your score?
Playboi Carti's music. This album was an interesting listen the first time. I enjoyed many parts of this album, and there are many parts where I wanted more.
Mhm.
This album is 30 songs, maybe the longest album we've ever reviewed.
Mhm.
To me, this is a 4.5.
Oh.
I can't give a 30-song album more than a 5, realistically. There's just no world where that's the case. This album is not good enough to be more than a 5. And I think this album left me wanting more in a way that I haven't felt from an album in a long time. I really, really felt like so much was left on the table with this project. And I have more songs I like than I expected, I'll say.
Yeah.
Out of 30 for sure. But to me, I was disappointed in this project.
Wow. Okay. For me, Playboi Carti's music
Mm-hmm.
is a 7 out of 10. It's a 7.
How dare you?
It's a
They're
7.
kicking out the fandom.
First,
They're kicking out the fandom. How dare you?
First of all, this is a higher score than I gave Whole Lotta Red. Which I don't like. It's his scores are like amorphous. Like it's hard to even assign the score to the music because then shit happens to the music where it's like, how could you give it this score? It doesn't even make sense. This is so important. But you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But in the time span that this has come out to today, to me, when I listen to it, I'm like, this is a 7. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the production, A1. Doing a lot of shit people are not even thinking of. You know, songs like we didn't even talk about Munyon. That's a great track.
Oh, yeah,
the production
yeah,
on Munyon is
yeah.
crazy. Like Weezy, we mentioned, Olympian is one of the songs people are latching onto big time.
Mm-hmm.
Cocaine Nose, I love the guitar work on that. And we talked about, you know, a bunch of songs before, Backdoor, you know, Fine Shit, Rather Lie. So dispersed production, but also very interesting. I think the vocal work, there are some songs where it misses, where I'm like, you sound like a Future clone, which is like Walk, Overly, like the very, very end. I'm like, too close to Future. But then there's songs like Wheezy. Sorry, not Wheezy. The other one with Filthy. Wake Up Filthy.
Mm-hmm.
The vocal work is perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where he's like, he changed it and like he found a spot where nobody else can really approach and he executed. And to me, that is showing me, okay, there's another, you know, we were talking about all these evolutions, all these influential things, all these things people are grasping from. I'm like, there's another thing right there, right? And I think that obviously we're talking about the lyrics are not really important. I think there are a couple of songs. Some of the one-liners are funny, but it didn't fit into our dialogue, so I didn't really want to bring them up. But there are some one-liners that are funny, some hooks that are funny are good. So to me, 7 out of 10. I think it's good. It's too long. Obviously, we're talking about 30 songs, an hour and 15 minutes. Fucking lunacy. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's how I feel. It's a 7 out of 10. Not a no skips. Not a vinyl cop. If you ever release Dilate on vinyl, I will cop
Yeah,
that.
Dilate I would cop on vinyl.
Where is it? Like, I don't understand.
Dilate
Like,
cop on vinyl.
but yeah.
My favorite reviews are the ones where it's the artist that you're just such a fan of. Those are my favorite reviews. So I'm happy we got to do this.
It's like, when was the last? We reviewed Brent Faiyaz and you were you were up on the Brent Faiyaz. Or you weren't even that.
Larger Than Life I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than the one before
More
that.
than Wasteland.
Yeah. But I loved Wasteland.
Yeah, yeah. Wasteland was good, but I wasn't. But I why I love these reviews is because you go hard for the artist that you like.
I just see the vision. I see the vision. I see the vision that other people don't. It's okay.
Everything is love. It's okay. Everything is love.
It's okay. And it's really this group of musicians. The Ken Carson. We didn't review Ken Carson. That was one of the albums I was higher on than most people. Now Yeet and now Playboi Carti. I just
Lonely.
I just like this space. I think it's valid. I think it's more valid than other people, and I think that it's cooler than other people think it is. But it is also immensely popular. So I'm not the only person. I think I'm just like one of the more prominent people. But it's obviously immensely popular. So that's, I don't know. That's where I am.
No, listen. I think that space is valid for sure. I think all subgenres should feel valid. I want to know what you guys think, though. If you're listening to the podcast, you can now comment on Spotify. So go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think. On YouTube, find us at Album Mode. Make sure you subscribe to us. Hit that bell so your post notifications are on. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Are you a super fan like Demar? Is Playboi Carti the best artist to ever breathe life on this planet? Or are you more like me and you like him, but he's just a guy? Okay. Let us know in the comments. Tell us how you feel. Find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, Album Mode Pod on Instagram, Album Mode Pod on TikTok. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.
See ya.